Have you ever, looked in the mirror and just wondered what stories your face tells? About where you come from, every little detail, the shade of your skin, your eyes. It's not just biology, right? It's like a map, etched by thousands of years of history. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the human maps of Jordan. It's a place many people might only see through, well, a pretty narrow lens. But its people, their actual faces, they tell a much richer story, a much more diverse one. So, our mission today really is to tackle this fascinating question. What makes Jordan's people look so different? We've gathered a whole stack of sources, genetic research, anthropological studies, even just vivid observations from people on the ground, all looking into the physical characteristics of Jordanians. Our goal, it's to unpack how millennia of history, think deserts, ancient trade routes, huge empires, migrations, even recent refugee flows have sculpted the incredible variety of faces you see in Jordan today. We want to move beyond just the simple biology and reveal this living history. Basically give you a shortcut to understanding this really captivating topic.
It really is an incredibly rich tapestry to explore. And when we talk about Jordan, it's crucial to remember we're not just discussing a modern country.
Yeah.
What the sources really hammer home is that this land has always been a kind of ancient thoroughfare.
A thoroughfare, like a highway for civilizations going way back. What sort of ancient footprints are we actually talking about? Who passed through and, left their mark?
Exactly, a constant flow of people. You've got the Nabataeans, right? Famous for carving Petra, then Roman legions building cities we can still see. After that, powerful Arab tribes coming in from the Arabian Peninsula, centuries of Ottoman rule. I mean, each
Yeah.
one left a clear imprint physically and culturally.
Wow.
And that's not even touching on recent history. The waves of refugees from Palestine, Iraq, Syria, they've significantly shaped the modern population too. It's just layer upon layer of human history.
That deep history, I imagine it creates a pretty unique genetic profile. Then, does the research actually show this layering in the DNA?
Oh, absolutely. And this is where it gets really fascinating. One of the big findings from genetic studies back in 2017 showed that roughly 60 to 65% of Jordanian ancestry comes from ancient Levantine populations.
Levantines, so people from that eastern Mediterranean region.
Precisely. Then you add a pretty significant chunk, maybe 20 to 25% from the Arabian Peninsula, and on top of that, another 10 to 15%, which they call admixture. Basically a blend of genetic material from Mediterranean groups, Persians, even some North African
Wow,
populations.
so it's a real mix.
It's this specific genetic cocktail that explains why you could be anywhere in Jordan and see two people, both clearly Jordanian, but looking remarkably different. One might have lighter skin, maybe hazel eyes, the other darker skin, curly hair. It's not just some abstract historical fact. You need to think about it like this, that history is literally written in the DNA of people walking around Jordan today.
That's a really powerful way to think about it, like a living museum. And I guess nowhere is that more obvious than in the range of skin tones you see. Is that where we start seeing these differences most vividly?
Yeah, skin tone is a great place to start. It shows really remarkable variation across the country. If you're up in northern Jordan, places like Irbid or Ajloun, you're more likely to see lighter olive tones. And the research links this pretty directly to that stronger Levantine and Mediterranean ancestry found there.
Okay. And does that change as you move south? Does the influence shift?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
As you head into central Jordan, Amman, Salt, those areas, medium olive to light brown tones tend to be more common. But then go further south into the desert regions like Man or Karak, and you'll notice darker brown complexions become more frequent. That's strongly tied to Bedouin heritage and roots in the Arabian Peninsula.
Is there data on this, like percentages?
There is. Survey data suggests around 55% of Jordanians have those medium olive tones. Then maybe 25% are lighter olive or fair. And that leaves about 20% with darker brown skin, which is especially concentrated among southern tribes. And interestingly, families historically linked to the Red Sea trade routes.
It's incredible how geographically distinct those patterns seem to be. Now, I understand there's also a cultural side to this, maybe even some debate around skin tone in Jordan.
Absolutely. The sources definitely point this out. In media advertising, you often see lighter skin being idealized, which kind of mirrors global beauty standards, unfortunately. But then you look at Jordanian poetry, traditional heritage, and darker Bedouin skin is often celebrated. It's seen as a symbol of resilience, authenticity.
That's quite a contrast.
It is, isn't it? It really makes you think about how these societal ideals can clash with, deep-seated cultural pride, all within the same country.
That's fascinating. But how does that play out day to day? Do these different views create friction?
Well, the research suggests it's complex. Lighter skin might be seen as desirable in some, maybe more urban or globally influenced circles, but there's also this incredibly strong, powerful pride in Bedouin heritage, especially down south. So, yeah, you might see lighter skin in an ad, but you'll also hear songs and poems praising the darker desert aesthetic. It's a tension, sure, but maybe also a source of diverse identity.
Hmm.
And speaking of striking variations, eye color is another big one.
Right, because I read that while dark brown eyes are obviously the most common, what, like 75, 80%, lighter eye colors are actually more common in Jordan than in many other Arab countries. Is that right?
It is, yeah. And it often surprises people. Genetic surveys back this up. They show that something like 15 to 20% of Jordanians carry the specific gene variants, the alleles, for lighter eye colors like hazel, green, even blue sometimes. You see this more often in families in the north and west of the country. And there's a direct link back to those Levantine and Mediterranean influences we were talking about. It really challenges those simple stereotypes.
So, skin, eyes, hair must also tell a story, right? What did the sources say about hair diversity?
Oh, definitely. The material describes a huge range. About 60% of Jordanians have that thick, dark hair, ranging from straight to wavy. Pretty typical for the region, maybe. But then you've got a really significant group, about 25%, with strongly wavy or even curly textures. And that's particularly noticeable among Bedouin tribes and people with Arabian or even some African admixture in their background.
And lighter shades, are they present too?
They are. Around 10 to 15% show lighter brown or sometimes auburn shades, again, often seen in the northern regions among families with strong Levantine ties. And here's a little surprise. It's rare, sure, but you do find occasional blonde shades, especially in some northern communities. It points to that long, long history of contact with Mediterranean peoples. It just reinforces that crossroads idea.
It's amazing how varied the individual features are, but what about the overall face shape, the architecture, as you called it? Do facial features also map onto these regional histories?
They absolutely do. That overall structure often reflects these different influences. For example, northern Jordanians, say from Irbid or Ajloun, might more often have narrower noses, lighter skin, maybe those hazel or green eyes we mentioned. It really showcases that Mediterranean link.
And that pattern continues as you move across the country.
It does. Move towards central Jordan, and you find more of what's often described as a classic Levantine look.
Mm-hmm.
Olive skin, maybe more oval faces, dark brown eyes. But then head south to the Bedouin tribes in places like Makan and Karak, Wadi Rum. You often see stronger jawlines, the darker skin, sometimes more prominent noses, and definitely that wavy or curly hair. And then there's Amman. The capital is just this incredible cosmopolitan mix. You've got descendants of Palestinian refugees, Circassians, Iraqis, Syrians, all contributing to this really unique urban blend of features.
And there's actual science backing this up, right? I saw a note about anthropological measurements.
Yes. This is fascinating. Studies looking at craniofacial measurements, basically, the shape and size of the skull and face, have found up to 12% variation between northern and southern Jordanians.
12%, that sounds significant.
It's huge for a relatively small population. It means essentially that two people from opposite ends of Jordan could look as different as people from entirely different regions of the world. It completely blows away any idea of a single Jordanian look.
Wow. Okay, what about other physical traits, like height and build? Our sources mention some 2020 health data, men averaging around 174 centimeters, women 161 centimeters. Does that hold true across the board?
Broadly, yes, those are the averages. But again, there are regional variations. Northerners tend to be slightly taller on average, that Mediterranean input again, whereas southern Bedouins are often described as being a bit shorter, but with more robust muscular builds. Which makes sense, right? Classic adaptation to desert environments.
And are things changing, like with younger generations?
They are. Modern trends show urban populations are generally clustering around the national averages, and, like in many parts of the world, younger Jordanians are getting taller thanks to better nutrition over the last few decades. I think the sources mentioned a 2.5 centimeter increase in average male height just since the 1980s, so things aren't static.
This all leads us to a really interesting and maybe sensitive question that the sources highlighted. Is there actually such a thing as a typical Jordanian look? How do Jordanians themselves feel about this?
Yeah, this is where it gets quite nuanced. It's apparently a real debate within the country. Some people argue that the Bedouin profile, the darker skin, curly hair, perhaps a more prominent nose, is the authentic national image, the sort of quintessential Jordanian. But then others strongly disagree. They'd point to the Levantine features, the lighter skin, maybe lighter eyes, common in the north, and say that is just as representative of Jordan.
And how does this debate, I guess, play out? In media or just conversation?
Well, the sources suggest these ideas about appearance are often tied up with deeper questions about who belongs, about national identity. And it gets even more complex when you factor in that Palestinian refugees and their descendants make up nearly half the population. Many share similar Levantine features, so they blend in visually, but their presence inevitably shapes discussions about identity. What's sometimes noted is that political tensions can occasionally spill over into conversations about who looks Jordanian or who represents the true Jordan. It really shows how tangled appearance, history, and politics can become.
Okay, let's try to make this really concrete. To bring this human mosaic to life, could you maybe paint a picture? Like, imagine walking through the Al Balad market, the old downtown souk in Amman. What would we see?
Okay, yeah, great idea. So picture this. You might see a shopkeeper. Maybe he has that light olive skin, really striking hazel eyes, and he's carefully arranging his spices. And then right next to him, perhaps you share a moment with a Bedouin elder. He has darker, weathered skin, a strong jawline, maybe offering you coffee with this incredibly warm, welcoming smile.
And reflecting another part of that mosaic, someone different again.
Exactly. Just a few steps away, maybe you see a young woman, perhaps of Circassian descent, with fair skin and light brown hair. She's chatting away in Arabic, but maybe you catch just a subtle hint of her ancestral language in her accent. Each one looks completely distinct, right? But together, that is Jordan's human mosaic.
That really paints a picture. So this diversity, it isn't just there, it's tied up in people's sense of self, their heritage, their pride. But does it cause problems too?
Oh, it's absolutely tied to heritage and pride. Families often emphasize their specific roots, tribal connections, northern Levantine ancestry, Palestinian heritage. It matters. But yes, we have to acknowledge the flip side. The sources are clear that these physical differences can sometimes fuel prejudice. For instance, darker-skinned Southerners might occasionally face negative stereotypes, and conversely, maybe lighter-skinned individuals are sometimes overrepresented in certain media portrayals.
That duality, the pride on one hand, the potential for prejudice on the other seems crucial. Is that dynamic changing at all in modern Jordan?
Yes, and this seems to be a really positive trend highlighted in the material. There's evidence of a younger generation actively working to redefine beauty and identity. You see social campaigns celebrating the Bedouin look, embracing Palestinian heritage, highlighting the diversity brought by refugees, framing it all as integral parts of what it means to be Jordanian today. It's the shift, really, from maybe a single narrow ideal towards celebrating the beauty in all these different appearances. That feels like a powerful story of evolving national pride.
So let's bring it back to our core question. What makes Jordan's people look so different? What's the bottom line from all this research?
Well, it seems clear, doesn't it? Scientists, historians, they all pretty much agree. There just isn't one single Jordanian face. Not at all. Instead, Jordan is this vibrant meeting point, that thoroughfare idea again. A true crossroads of Bedouins from the desert, Levantines from the Fertile Crescent, refugees bringing their own histories, migrants adding new layers. You've got green-eyed northerners, darker-skinned southerners, people with curly hair, straight hair, fair skin, olive skin, brown skin. The diversity is undeniable. It's profoundly real.
And this incredible range, well, it makes it impossible to pin down one national look, but maybe that's the whole point. Maybe that's its strength.
I think that's exactly right. It perfectly reflects Jordan's unique place in history. Its role as this constant junction. The answer to why so different lies in those deserts, those ancient rivers, the endless migrations, the empires that rose and fell across this land. Jordanians today carry the legacy of ancient Nabataeans, powerful Arab tribes, resilient farmers, Circassian warriors, Palestinian families, all those who passed through or settled.
So when you see that variety, the blue-green eyes in the north, the dark skin and curly hair in the south, the classic olive complexion in Amman, you're not seeing contradictions. You're actually seeing Jordan's story. Thousands of years of it, written right there on human faces.
Precisely.
The ultimate lesson, maybe, is that Jordan's strength isn't in everyone looking the same. It's in that very diversity. It proves that identity isn't about one look, but about all the many faces that together make up a nation. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? About what stories your own face might tell about your history, your heritage, where you fit in the bigger human map.